What's up, you guys? My name is Superstar Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of LEGO Arts. So in the last episode, we did a showcase on the Mandalorian V2 along with Grogu, aka Baby Yoda. So this time we're going back to another one of my old customs from ages and ages ago, and that is Mr. Freeze. So as you can see, we have a brand new Mr. Freeze minifigure, completely redone from the original one that I showcased a long time ago, and you can see the drastic difference between this one and the original one. So, one of the reasons that I wanted to go back to this character is Mr. Freeze was sort of like on my list for a long time as sort of like minifigures to redo, and I even mentioned from the DC Supervillain showcase that I wanted to remake some of my old minifigures, from back then. And since I've already done like the Joker and Catwoman, I figured the next one on the list would be Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze, especially since I got the new Procreate clay, and since the Virgil Yamato sheaf came out perfectly, I decided that while I was on it, I wanted to redo Mr. Freeze, Mr. Freeze, and this looks so much better than the first one did. So you can see like a brand new armor, a brand new paint job, a brand new freeze gun, the whole 9 yards. It looks really amazing. And I'm really proud that this came out. So as you guys know the drill, we're gonna take take this minifigure, do a full review, and explain the process, why I chose to go ahead with this route, and then we're gonna go from there. So without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get this showcase on the road. Alright, here we have our Dr. Victor Freeze, aka Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze in his Arkham City interpretation. I wanted to go ahead with this design of Mr. Freeze because I really like it. I thought it was pretty cool. Plus, the minifigure that this was based off of was roughly close to what that sort of design was, especially with like the helmet choice that LEGO picked out for this figure back when it came out. So I decided to keep it up and keep it out with that. And plus, this one would have been easier than with some of the other versions of Mr. Freeze to do. Another version that I kind of wanted to go with was the Batman animated series. I think it was the final season of that one, for where he was more of a cyborg. I really liked the suit design of that one. And then I also would love to do the Mr. Freeze design from the 2004 The Batman cartoon. I really like that design. I think it's really cool, especially for the dome piece. But I didn't go ahead with that one because of that dome piece. I have no idea how to make the ice dome he has and make it translucent and everything. I think so. Maybe that's something to try and experiment with something in the future. I don't know how, but that could be a possibility. Anyways, back on this figure itself. So this figure, when it came to making with it, it was mostly paintwork, and some of the major stuff to do is the dome. I can't really remove the whole thing because the clay. This is now Procreate clay, which is really working for me. I really like it. And I've talked about it before in the previous video I did. But unfortunately, it fused to the back, so I can't take it off to give a full look at it. So just looking at it from here, as you can see, I did a little carving, some individual pieces on the sides for these tubes, and then on the top for some of those lights. And those lights, you can see the components, the paint detail work on the top and the sides of the helmet too, and then some more detailing on these containers. I probably should have gone with some Lego studs and some Lego stud pieces for those, but I wanted to test out with clay. And clay, it probably would have worked better, but in the end it did. It came out okay. Okay, so I won't complain too much. You can see a little paintwork on the back. These blue lines represent the tube of the cryo fuel coursing through the whole suit. And then on the arms, we can see the little control pad on his on his wrists. On his shoulders, you see a little clay for that armor padding, and he's got there. Some more detail work on the front. In the front, if we remove the gun for now, we can see a little more detailing. You can see some paintwork on the legs. There is some articulation there. I made sure to have plenty of that so where he can bend his legs and I can position him. And then with a little bit of detail work, I took a push pin and carefully did those lines all around the figure. A little bit of the yellow and the blues. The blue was definitely an interesting one that I did. I combined a basic pool blue with ocean breeze. He's to sort of that matchup, that sort of icy blue coloration he has in Arkham City, and I think it came out pretty cool. I kind of like it how it looked. You can see the same detailing on this arm is the exact same on the other one. And another feature that we have here, on top of here, Up here. Hang on. Removing the dome has always been kind of a pain to do. I might need to get like one of my tools for it. But I did keep up with the idea that there we go. I did keep up with the idea that in the game, like, he can remove his helmet piece, and like you could see like his face underneath, so we could see like the face underneath. The face is basically the only thing that stuck around for in comparison in the original Mr. Freeze figure. I was kind of hoping to remove the helmets to do some paint work, and we're gonna like match up the skin tone a little bit better. But the best I was able to do was like expand the straps on like the goggles, and then like repaint in the lens, and the lenses were sort of like a different red. It really red to like make him pop out a little bit more, especially now like when I put on the helmet, and I put on like the glass helmet piece. I definitely wanted to be careful of sculpting around this piece, because I didn't want the whole thing to fuse together. So that was sort of a bit of a challenge to do. And another bit is that like you could see on the front sort of like sand markings, and that was because like I took the whole helmet and I basically sanded it off as much as possible. I sanded off the front completely, chipped off a little bit on the front. The back was completely destroyed as intentional, because I wanted to get rid of those like scuba tubes, because that's basically what the whole helmet was. It was basically a scuba diving helmet. And to really match it up, I had to like take like this buzzsaw mechanic on my Dremel tool, and basically like carefully cut off the tubes, cut off the like half of the back, and then a little bit on the front, and then carefully, like especially with the clay on the shoulders, I carefully like sculpted it on, and left just enough, and did some articulation, enough to where like I can articulate the arms fully up, so he can like position, so I can like position them for like either like running, or like he's holding something. So it was a little bit tricky, but on the upside, unlike in the past, I didn't have to glue anything. That's one of my favorite things about this clay, is that like when it dries, it stays on, and I don't need to like add like any extra glue. All I have to do is just like make sure that like the clay is on the brick piece that I'm forging, and it will stay on. Which in all honesty was what made crafting the Yamato sheath very tedious, because I kept having to pull out the katana to make sure that it didn't fuse inside multiple times. But luckily it came out good in the end. But before we wrap things up, we can get a better look at the freeze gun. So it was also another thing I wanted to redo, that like the previous gun that I had, it was okay, but again, like this was like completely new, and I wanted to like redo it and everything. And I thought about like trying to like maybe sculpt out like his cryo gun, but he had a lot of different versions of it, and different versions of the weapon. And so I kept thinking that like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I decided to like go through like my bin that I keep like all my brick weapons, and I came across this piece, this sort of like blaster piece. I think this was from like the pack that I recently got, and I like the design of it. I think it matches up pretty well with like Mr. Freeze's cryo gun. All I did was just like take it onto the workbench, added in like some blue paint. I did that to like wipe some off, especially like on some of these black details here and there. And another way, it really matches up for like the blue energy powering up the gun, and then when Mr. Freeze fires it, it releases sort of like the freeze beam. So that was definitely something that I wanted to add on here, and it definitely completes the rest of the figure. Like it really pulls off. It's just like this is pulls off like the supervillain having like his cryo gun, and ready to fight like the Dark Knight and any others like in Gotham. So it was a little bit of a challenge, especially for like the helmet and some of the paintwork. But in the end, this was worth it, and I really love how this turned out for a Mr. Freeze custom. So overall, that's gonna pretty much do it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I keep saying it, but I really like how this came out. And I've mentioned it before that I like going back to like these kinds of projects for like some minifigures that I've done in like my very early days and customizing, like going back to them and thinking about like new ideas of sort of like how to go off of those and like improve on them, make them look better when testing out like new skills that I've learned over time. And Mr. Freeze definitely turned out pretty nice very nice. I really like how this figure came out, and he looks so much better than how he did beforehand. And I've mentioned it before, but I plans to do this for a lot of my other minifigures for characters such as like Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, maybe Two-Face, and a lot of other characters that I'm wanting to like go off of those and like improve on them. And since the new Procreate clay worked out pretty well for Freeze and Yamato, I'm gonna be using it more often for some other projects. But speaking of which, I do plans to get back to like some of my other stuff that I keep saying beforehand. I will be updating my Miles Morales minifigure. Also be going back to like some of my other projects that require like some sculpting. I still need to do Umbrella Academy 2. I did mention I was thinking about going back to Five Nights at Freddy's. That's still on the list of like potential stuff to get back to. I'm debating of whether or not to like do another buildable figure. I don't know if I have enough spare parts to do it. But since they announced that like Godzilla vs. Kong supposed to be coming out in March, I may or may not be doing like a King Kong figurine. Again, I don't know for sure. I'll just wait and see like how it turns out in the end. But it could potentially be something to do. But the next showcase I do plan to show you guys is going to be another Clone Trooper showcase that I finally that some of the AB figure decals finally came in, and I've customized a few clones. So I'll be showcasing that one in the next episode for you guys. And yeah, overall that's gonna pretty much do it. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in the next video.